Welcome back to Sustainability Forward, the trusted podcast on climate, energy, and the future of clean technology. Today is an interesting episode because we are looking at energy transition, but through the European lens, which means we'll have an insightful discussion on how the energy transition is progressing in Europe, but through two comprehensive reports which were recently produced. And each one of these reports gives a unique and crucial perspective on how the energy transition is progressing or what are the challenges ahead within Europe. And to give some context, the first report is the Draghi Report. It has been authored by the former European Central Bank President Mario Draghi, fellow Italian of my co-host Carmine. Welcome, Carmine. And this report evaluates Europe's economic competitiveness in the context of the ongoing energy transition. The second report that we're going to look at is the Cleantech Reality Check, which has been produced by Breakthrough Energy in partnership with Cleantech for Europe and supported by Systemiq. And that examines how Europe's real-world progress and implementation gaps in scaling critical clean tech technologies within the context of Europe, what progress has been made there. Welcome, Carmine.
Hey, Rishi. So looking forward to this discussion, and always great to discuss the insight, yes, of the former bank president of the central bank, Mario Draghi, but also as being the former Italian prime minister.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So yes, we'll explore Draghi's report on European competitiveness and focusing on economic implication of Europe's energy transition. So this will analyze the Cleantech Reality Check, as you said. And this hopefully give us an honest assessment of the European progress in deploying vital clean technologies.
Yeah, that's right. So let's kick things off with the Draghi report. So Mario Draghi essentially emphasizes in the report that the high cost of energy in Europe has been significantly undermining its economic competitiveness. He's also mentioned that energy prices in Europe are substantially higher compared to key global competitors like the US and China for a variety of reasons. But that's been one of the main things he's highlighted, and he basically made the point that has impacted everything, starting from industrial competitiveness to household budgets.
Yeah. In fact, the report identifies fragmented and extensively high energy taxation across Europe as the major barrier. So Draghi suggests establishing a common cap on energy taxes to harmonize the market and reduce internal distortions. So persuading individual member states to give a little bit of control, and this will probably be politically challenging.
That's a very interesting point, actually. Harmonizing the taxation on a particular commodity across all the member states is not an easy step. What I also noted, of course, is that Draghi has uniquely framed, decarbonization as a strategic growth opportunity. Now, whether that is the case or not, given whatever is going on, how Europe has been in the center of geopolitical discussions, we don't know. But Draghi has actually framed decarbonization as a strategic growth opportunity rather than a cost burden, as it is being viewed in many other countries, especially in current times. And currently, Europe's investment in green technologies and energy infrastructure, I think, hovers at around 300 billion per year. And what has been pointed out in this report is that this amount of $300 billion per year needs to more than double to approximately 750 to 800 billion euros annually, which should be sufficient to achieve Europe's decarbonization target. But as of now, it's nowhere near the target. It's half of that.
Yeah. Now, funding this ambition transition is a big challenge. So Draghi advocates leveraging the ETS, so the emission trading system revenues, incentivize private sector capital, and proposing joint EU-level borrowing akin to the COVID-19 Recovery Fund. Now, despite potential political resistance from fiscally conservative states, Draghi argues this is essential to maintain Europe's competitive edge.
Interesting. And absolutely, I mean, innovation is another critical area which has been highlighted by Draghi. Europe, as of now, is leading the world in clean energy patents. Yet, less than 10% are commercially scaled domestically, right? So a lot of, I guess, focus on initial research, but not translating into anything meaningful on a commercial scaled up basis. Permitting processes, and this is a big pain point that I have come across in my own experience as well. Permitting processes for renewable projects averages right now 7 years compared to 2 or 3 years in the US and China. So even on the same basis or same kind of projects, it takes far longer to get permitting approvals for renewable projects. And that has been highlighted as a major disadvantage for Europe. And Draghi has basically asked the member states to address this immediately.
Yes, and it's a matter of scale and speed to be competitive in this market. Now, this discussion on permitting and regulatory bottlenecks actually bring us to the second report, this Cleantech Reality Check. So this is a comprehensive analysis that underscores the real-world implementation hurdles that Europe now faces. For instance, the maritime e-fuel that is crucial for shipping decarbonization is significantly behind schedule. Only around 6% of required production volume currently secured to investment decisions.
That's right. And this shortfall, as you said, only 6% of required production has been secured. This shortfall is alarming because it highlights, well, number one, a lack of clear incentives, but also regulatory uncertainty. Another category, which is very well recognized now, is the sustainable aviation fuels, and that also faces substantial challenges. The European Union's Refuel EU aviation regulation requires 600,000 tons per annum of sustainable aviation fuel by 2030. But unfortunately, only half of that amount or that volume is currently in the pipeline. And it's the key word there is pipeline, because no final investment decisions have been taken yet. So airlines require SAF to be economically competitive with conventional fuels. So therefore, there's a need for robust policy frameworks and incentives to make this happen.
Yes, the report also sheds light on hydrogen, particularly within the refinery sector, when it's mostly used today for some of the processing. Now, despite more than 60 projects announced, this just cover 22% of the Europe Ambition 2030 hydrogen production target. These are complex funding processes, regulatory uncertainties, and inadequate incentives. Everything of this slows down this progress considerably.
Yeah, I agree. Electrification, another measure of how energy transition is progressing, and one of the more well-known dimensions of energy transition, is also lagging, especially when it comes to long duration energy storage, which is very critical for balancing renewable power intermittency. And the European Union needs about 65 gigawatt of LDES by 2030, but currently less than 1 gigawatt has been installed. And because that is the case, because there's been such a slow uptake, investors remain very, very hesitant. Without a clear revenue model or guaranteed returns, nothing is essentially progressing on the LDES front as well.
Yeah, we speak on electrification during one of the latest episodes, but the industrial heat sectors, not just home, but heat sector, industrial part, present a significant challenges as well. Europe needs around 150 billion of investment in what is called power-to-heat technologies, but the uptake remains low. The transition requires a business model making electrified heat economically attractive, not just merely environmental beneficial, while that is also important.
Yeah. And the underlying infrastructure, particularly Europe's grids, is perhaps the most urgent issue of all. You can produce all the electricity, renewable electricity in the world, but you need a modern grid to bring the power from point of supply to point of demand, but also through a modernized grid that takes into account the different dynamics of different patterns of consumption as well. So the European continent desperately needs accelerated grid expansion and modernization, with targets requiring millions of additional kilometers of transmission and distribution infrastructure. And current expansion rates that we have today in Europe must triple for distribution grids and increase 20-fold for transmission grids. So those are impressive, well, I guess big numbers to achieve. 3 times for distribution grids and 20 times for transmission grids. So a lot of ground to be covered.
Yeah, when you talk about bottleneck. So
yeah.
The Clean Reality Check report, so just to summarize, stresses that without streamlined permitting, regulatory reform, proactive planning, Europe clean energy transition risk remains pretty high.
That's right. And if we bring together these 2 reports, the Draghi Report and the Cleantech Reality Check report, we see some complementary perspectives. So on the one hand, Draghi has emphasized competitiveness, investment, and regulatory frameworks, while the Cleantech Reality Check series illustrates the stark reality of technological implementation gaps.
Yeah. So Europe potentials to lead a global clean technology revolution is vast, but real and rapid policy action, substantial funding increases, and structural reform are urgently needed. Otherwise, as we said, you cannot get the scale and speed that you need there.
That's right. And just to summarize here, Europe's energy transition isn't merely an environmental necessity, although, like you said, it's one of the biggest drivers. It's also an economic imperative for the continent. And the continent must bridge the gap between high-level commitments, which have been set out in different parts of the European strategy, but that must then be connected to practical and scalable implementation plans.
Right, Richie. So both reports send a clear message. Now is the moment for bold action. So without decisive steps, Europe risks losing both its climate leadership, its economic competitiveness, and also its industrial know-how.
Absolutely. So I think the message is clear from both reports. We are in the middle of very substantial geopolitical debates, and Europe is in the middle of it as well. So we felt, discussing these topics in the context of the European energy transition was very important. So thank you to our audience for tuning in. If you'd like to read more, we'll of course link both these reports in the description of the episode. Make sure to join us next time on Sustainability Forward. Until then, stay informed and stay sustainable. And also remember, Sustainability Forward is available on all popular podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, rate our episodes because that gives us critical feedback. And of course, share the podcast with your friends and colleagues to help spread these crucial conversations. Until next time, thank you from me, Rishi, and thank you, Carmine, for joining me.
Thank you, Rishi.